Unscripted, unshackled, uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for more mature audiences only.
It's Miguel and Holly, Uncensored.
Hello and welcome to Miguel and Holly Uncensored. This is our off-air podcast that we do 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You can find our other podcast like Miguel and Holly Full Show, Miguel and Holly's Blown Off, Queen City Confessions on the new and improved iHeartRadio app or anywhere you listen to podcasts, and leave us a review, not on the Uncensored one, but also on the other ones as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening when you do, and share it with someone, please. So I had a hard time with our segment we do on Fridays called Can't Let It Go. Because if you don't listen to the Full Show podcast, which you should, on Fridays we call in with something that you have not been able to stop thinking about, whether it's a pop culture moment, a TV show, a movie, and usually most of mine are TV shows because I'm like officially on the train of watching TV as a hobby, and I love it.
That's just one of your things.
It is. I love it. And I've had people be like, that's not a hobby. You're just passively doing it. I'm like, well, you're saying reading is not a hobby? It's a hobby.
A hobby's a hobby's a hobby. You can do whatever you want.
So this morning I said that my Can't Let It Go was, this new study that's come out that's saying that you shouldn't lick your dogs in the mouth. You shouldn't kiss your dogs on the mouth or in the mouth, because I've seen both.
Ugh. I don't get why. Like, I love my dog. I really do. I decided that I love my dog. He is so cute. And I talk to him, and I'm like, you're so little. He's not. Like, he seems like he doesn't seem big to me anymore, but like whenever he's by other dogs, I'm like, oh shit, that's a big dog.
Like, that's a big old dog.
You're so little. You're such a little baby. And I use this voice. As soon as I get home, I greet him. I'm like, hello. And meanwhile, my fiance's over here, and I'm like, oh, hi.
Hey.
Love him. Love both of them. But I love the dog. And I would never put my lips anywhere near that dog's tongue.
We don't save stuff from the podcast. I'm going to save that one. That one's good. I had to make a mark since Calvin's not here. So you can find that. I did a whole video about it on the Miguel and Holly Instagram if you want to comment on that. But that was a lie. That was a lie. That has not been roaming around my head this week. That was something I found this morning because I spent 25 minutes straight just not doing anything else this morning. That's why I actually I did the schedule. I got 90% of the stuff for today's show, Friday, done yesterday.
Yeah.
But I came in early because I knew I was going to have a hard time finding a Can't Let It Go because I couldn't truly talk about what I can't let go of this week. Warning, politics.
It's going to be one of those.
It is. It's not listen, over the next 4 years, just know that once a month, it's probably, I'm not going to try to weave it in here and there. I'm going to tell you up front, here's what's happening. So you can choose to skip this podcast and go listen to something else.
Okay.
Or you can get down in here with us.
Okay. All right. I think that's fair.
Right.
We don't want to, I can't do it every time.
No. I wouldn't want to because it's just, this is not a political podcast. This is a everything podcast.
Right.
This week just happened to be the fuck my life. Just actually hold on for 1 second.
Oh boy.
Wait 1 second. I'm going to do something. I'm gonna do that. All right. Okay.
What are you doing?
I removed this from the Hits 96.1 Facebook page.
That's best. Glad you did that.
I made a mental note to do that this morning when I said I wanted to talk about it, and I was like,
not on the station.
Not on the station.
The station. What is it? What does he have to say?
They don't endorse,
represent my views or whatever. Well, I definitely don't put this on there.
Right. So that's why I was like, wait, before I go down, in the stream, let me just double check and make sure it's not on the Hits 96.1 Facebook page.
Okay.
Because I just you know how you are obviously the main character in your head.
Yeah.
In my main story, my storyline this week I feel like people have been like, Miguel, why are you not posting about Trump's inauguration and the politics and everything? I'm sure not one single person thought that, but in my head, that was the storyline this week.
Oh.
And here's why. The next 4 years are going to be fucking nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And we cannot wave our hands up like those little silly men at a car dealership. Car dealership.
Woo.
At every, well, I think I want to do this, or I think I want to do this, because that's what they want. Literally, Steve Bannon, who is one of Trump's advisors in this first administration, who still has a podcast, he literally has said, that is what we do. We flood the zone with shit.
Yeah.
So then we're like, oh my God, he wants to name the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. And then we're all like crazy about that for 24 hours. Meanwhile, you probably have friends and family that have started posting like, oh, I have a friend who applied for NASA to be an engineer. And they're like, we have frozen all of our we have frozen all of our new hires because of Trump's policy. Or people are now scrambling within the government to be like, because, you know, they've erased and basically said, you need to figure out how to get rid of DEI employees in all of government, federal government.
Or like committees and stuff.
Right. And so you have like chief diversity and inclusion officers who are about to lose their livelihoods.
Right.
And so because of that, you have all these corporations that have started to do it, like Facebook and Walmart. And all these places have started to delete people and be like, we don't need you anymore.
Maybe, I don't know if you want to do this, but put a little note on the bottom that like warning political podcast.
Got it. Will do.
Because I just remember people be popping in all the time. So just in case, being very upfront. Yes, right. I'm just agreeing with you.
Thank you.
I'm just agreeing with you.
So this is going to be a little, because I didn't prepare like a monologue or anything. This is just.
Oh, you don't have notes?
No, I don't have.
I don't have notes.
No, nothing. This is just off my dome piece. I've just been taking everything in this week.
Okay.
But anyway, like I said, we can't melt down on everything. You have to take a look at what's really happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I just keep going back to is I cannot believe that we are here. Like, we knew it was going to happen. We saw the signs. We knew it. What, like Maya Angelou says, when people tell you who are, believe them.
Yeah. And
we believed it. But there's like a little glimmer of like, maybe they're just saying all this crazy shit to get elected, and that's not going to be the case. And maybe they'll try to bring the country together.
Did you really think that?
No, that's why I said a little morsel, like a grain of salt.
Oh, I didn't even have the grain.
No, I hoped, because I had to have something.
Right. No, I get it. I do get that.
Now it's like full on despair. And so this morning and this week, and yesterday, because I told Holly, I said, Holly, think about what you want for your Can't Let It Go, yesterday, so you can have your video ready since Kelvin's not in and we have to have time to edit it. I was doing that for myself because I'm like, I literally have been numb this week. That's all that's on my social media. That's all I have been watching, because it just seems so fucking nuts, all of the stuff that's happening. And then the mental gymnastics that some of the Trump people have been going through to justify it makes no sense to me. And that's why I have just been sitting here with my hands like, what?
Yeah.
And I want to say this too before we dive into everything. I feel like there is a difference between a MAGA person and a Republican. So I don't want to have to keep saying this is not a blanket statement for everyone, but I wanted to get it out at the beginning.
Okay.
One of the things that I saw this morning that I was like, what reality are we living in? I think it was Forbes had an Instagram post that said Trump and Republicans want to cut Medicare and Medicaid or whatever to pay for some of the things that they're trying to do.
Okay.
And you have a bunch of liberals in the comments being like, well, you fucked around. Now you're going to find out. Now grandma ain't going to get what she needs because this is what you wanted. But what about your eggs? And then I was like, okay, I'm curious if you are that, MAGA person. Like, how do you explain that? Like, how do you justify that? And their response was, well, why is Forbes acting like TMZ? Like, what do you even...
So are they saying that it's not happening? Or
No,
are they
I
saying
don't
that
even
it's
know.
happening and like, it's the price of business? Like,
I don't... That's what people under them in the comments were like, okay, so what do you mean by that? Because, like, that is happening. That's what they said they were going to do, and now they're doing it.
I feel like I try to get into the headspace because
Right.
I'm like, now I think it doesn't work because it's not logical and it's often just narcissistic gaslighting. So it doesn't make sense by foundation. But I do try to get into the headspace. Like maybe a large amount of people are like, well, we don't really care if they do some cuts to Medicare, Medicaid. They probably won't be that bad of cuts, and the ends justify the means. So, I don't know what that looks like to the individual. Like if they do start cutting Medicare, what does that look like for the individual? Like, that's on it.
Right.
Does that look like a higher copay at the doctor's office? Does that look like fewer things are covered? Because Medicare is pretty amazing, by the way.
And I'm so sorry. I misspoke for this particular article.
Okay.
It's actually delays funding to cancer research.
Oh, okay.
So my apologies for that.
Okay. So they're saying, okay, well, we're no closer to curing cancer anyway, so you might as well take some of that money and deport people with it.
Right. So like this comment is like, Forbes is the new TMZ. And then someone said, historically speaking, cancer research really has only padded big pharma pockets. So
okay. So that's the get.
So right. So there you go.
Right.
So that was this morning. And I think what really upset me, and I almost wrote something out yesterday, and I think there's going to be a cause and effect, because like a lot of the stuff we can fight when it comes to like birthright citizenship that is in the Constitution, and you cannot write an executive order saying that someone like Kelvin, whose parents were not born here, but he was born here, so he is a legal citizen. That's what's called birthright citizenship.
Right.
Trump wants to get rid of that.
Right.
It's in the Constitution.
Right. So, well, that's why a judge put a halt on that, because it's unconstitutional. And but that's just part of the barrage of stuff that's meant to make you angry. And
so that's one of the things that I'm like, all right, the political system and the courts are going to work that out. We don't need to like be crazy about that.
Right.
To me, the January 6th people, I've almost come to tears about it, and I've been trying to figure out why that makes me so angry. So if you don't know, he pardoned, I think it was 1,400 or 1,500 January 6ers.
Yeah, pardoned and did some commutations of sentences.
Right. So people either got off just like scot-free, you're good, or their sentences were shortened.
Yeah.
And one of the guys, the guy from Florida, the shaman guy, literally got out, and his first thing is he tweeted, "Hell yeah, I'm gonna go buy some guns."
Right.
These people killed people that day. And you're just like, they tried to, and they did. And you're sitting here telling me, oh, it's fine. It was a day of love.
It was a day of love with some warm handshakes. AKA the handshakes were hands around necks.
Right. These were hostages.
Yeah.
Like, what I just can't, and I feel like, Holly, this is how you feel when you feel like you're not being heard or people don't understand you and you get frustrated. I'm like, we spent all of the early 2000s. If you said anything against America, if you said anything against cops or the military, the Dixie Chicks, you basically were tossed out of America.
Yeah.
And this was the party that did
before
it.
canceling got canceling.
But now they're like, girl, you could kill somebody. You can push cops. You can have them suffocate right in front of you, and they can breach the Capitol. but it's fine.
They were just passionate. They were passionate. Yeah, yes. This is welcome to my world because it's my moral sense of like independent justice. And
Right.
so like when I feel like I'm not being heard or like I know that I'm right or I make sense and someone else is either ignoring it or choosing not to see it that way or whatever, it makes me feel like I'm about to explode out of my skin. I have to physically move or start doing something else or take a Xanax to right my ship because I get so incensed. And that's why I'm trying not to pay much attention. But like this whole January 6th thing is wild to me.
Right.
Like at this point, even Sheriff Grady Judd down in Polk County, Florida.
Yes.
Who is notoriously like good old boy as they come and like, fall in line, love me some Donald Trump guy was like, listen, yeah, but why would you release these people that hurt our cops? Because he's the sheriff. He's like, I can't agree with that. Even Grady Judd is like, I was with you until this. But we got to protect our law enforcement officer. So that's where I have a hard time because even he's having a hard time. That's where the disconnect becomes so great.
Right.
Where, if you I know a lot of law enforcement officers do tend to lean Republican. That's not like I don't have data or anything. And I know that it's probably very much on both sides equal or independence or whatever. But there are a lot that are, for Republican and Trump and all this stuff. How do you feel about the fact that like they're the party of back the blue and law and order until this, which goes against every single thing that you had just said? And they're like, oh, well, it's okay that these, people that literally abused and hurt cops, they're okay.
Right.
And I don't know how those people are reckoning that.
Right.
I'd be interested to know.
And that's what just it frustrates me because when I think about the hypocrisy of Colin Kaepernick, how he, kneeled during the Pledge of Allegiance or the Star Spangled Banner in football, and all those people were like, "How dare you kneel? My God!"
Yeah,
and this man lost.
People died for our rights and all this stuff.
But it's okay for these people who literally, and this is what I just like the images of January 6th and how they're trying to like rewrite history and say it was a day of love and it was peaceful and people were just taking tours of the Capitol. And then you see the picture of like the Trump flag and like the smoke and people scaling the walls. And I'm like, so that's okay. But this black man kneeling peacefully for 2.5 minutes is not okay. Make it make sense.
That's where I don't know. Because you just said that these people that tried to assault the Capitol, they're actually not at fault. Like whose fault was it? Or what or like what did we do? Or like what it is. I think there's a whitewashing of history that's trying to happen here where it's
definitely
like it wasn't that bad. And maybe it's even worse than that. Maybe it didn't really happen the way you said it did. But history gets real fuzzy the more you get away from it. So like,
but what's insane to me is if this were like 1965, yes, you can just Google it and you can see the videos and the pictures. And it's like,
yeah, you can. But the problem is now in this age of information, there's so much information that it has become so full of fake things because you've got Photoshop, you've got video editing software that can fake anything. I feel like people don't know what to believe anymore because we've been inundated with so much online and it's so easy to fake stuff with AI and all of that stuff. yes, you could Google it, but someone could make the case and be like, well, that's just edited video. Where's the truth? And that's what I have a problem with.
Right.
And did we talk about this with Zuckerberg? Like, where is the truth?
Right.
Who holds the truth is not subjective. The truth is what happened. But now, like, the world got tilted on its axis, and it's like everyone's like, well, that's your version of the truth. Well, no. Someone was there recording that day. Where's that footage? Because that's the truth.
And I'm like, I remember sitting on the couch having CNN on, and all of a sudden Abe was like, do you see what's happening? Because it was calm up and they were covering the rally, and then you saw people like getting kind of crazy with the flags.
It was so wild because I had woken up from a nap, and it was just like I wasn't watching TV. All I was doing was I had got a CNN update on my phone, or like AP. At the time I'm still with AP News. And AP News was like, things are getting a little rough. And I was like, what? So I look at the thing and I'm like, is anybody else seeing this? And I had to go pick up Maya from school. So I'm getting in my car trying to like look at these updates on my phone, and it's like progressively getting worse. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Meanwhile, everyone's just picking their kid up from school. There's like a fucking insurrection happening at the Capitol. And we're like, did you get your coat? Go grab your coat. Come on in. And then you're like, I'm trying to watch this insurrection happen. How was your day at school? Did you bring your homework? Okay. It was so weirdly calm.
Right. That's why that has made me probably the most emotional, because there are direct impacts that are going to be happening. Like I was listening to a podcast that they were saying that like the Proud Boys, who, you know, the leader of that got out, they were marching down the street in Washington. Like that is a direct cause and effect.
Yeah.
That they're just like, all right, poop, just let them go.
Yeah. That one probably has worried me the most, the release of all those people, because I'm like, what's going to happen? Like now they're angry because they got sentenced. They didn't agree with it. Some of them still think that they're the victims. And now they're free thanks to their savior, Trump. So what kind of like ammo does that give you? You just committed a crime and you got off scot-free, and you even think that you are the martyr here.
They feel emboldened. He has an army. He has his people.
Who we know already followed him the first time. And that was even with like undercover orders. Like, what if he out loud said the quiet part? So like, what now? Do we just wait? Do we just wait for some? That's almost where I'm at. I'm almost at a level of like fuck around and find outness where I'm like, something's going to happen, and then it's going to happen. And then I want to go to the people that I know in my real life that voted for Donald Trump and be like, how do you explain this?
Right.
Not even mad. I just want to be like, what are your thoughts on this?
Right.
What are your thoughts on this whole thing?
And
I don't know.
That's why I can't wrap my brain. And I guess that's what's just made me so emotional this week is like, if you wanted to debate, you know, I don't know, DEI, whatever. Like, let's talk about it. Like how you feel, you know, but whatever. That's a debate.
And I always thought, well, how can you argue with wanting more diversity in a workplace? Well, I see now how you argue it. I've learned.
You just get rid of it.
Well, no. I mean, I was like, what could possibly be the reasoning for wanting women and minorities to have equal footing? Well, anything can be twisted. And so it's, well, unqualified people, we're taking qualified people's jobs just because of the color of their skin. And I'm like, oh, I see what you did there.
And
it's wrong, but I see what you did there.
But my retort to that is, name an example where that happened.
They might come up with some. I don't know.
They can't, because it's like when you talk about diversity and equity or an inclusion, it is a diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it's all about making sure not that everybody gets the same thing. It's about saying, hey, if you have a deficiency in this area, let me just help you up a little bit just so you can be on the same playing field as the other people who have the same resources. And so when people try to debate that, I'm like, and like, this isn't even just for minorities. This is for veterans. Like, if you went over, and you're around our age and you went and fought in Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever back in the day, and you have things that you need to work through, we should put that into consideration for you to get hired. If you have a disability, that should be considered so we can put you up on the same playing field. And so that's why I'm like, all right, girl, like, tell me again how that's not fair.
Right. It's not that they're unqualified. It's that in the past, they were overlooked.
Right.
Everyone is qualified still. The qualified person is going to get the job, but there's a bigger pool because the people that used to be overlooked are now in the running.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that there's an unqualified person filling a qualified person's slot. It's that there are more qualified people to contend with.
And that scares people.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about with everything, the oligarchs.
Oh, is it oligarch? Oligarch?
Oligarch? Oh, I've heard both. Oligarchs and oligarchs.
I think it's oligarchs because I saw something online last night that said the broligarchs. And I thought that was accurate.
Well, that's exactly what that is. So if you're like, what exactly? Because I hate when they just throw out those terms in the news and you're like,
and they act like you're supposed to know what it means.
Right. I'm like, girl, nobody. It's just basically people that buy their way into power or who have money, like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, who have the money to buy access to power.
Right.
Because none of them were elected, and they have their money. And why do you think at the inauguration, the first people next to Trump's family were the billionaires?
The billionaire bros.
Even homeboy governor of Texas was sitting in the overflow room. He wasn't even sitting there, and he's probably like the biggest, like, what can I do to help you, Trump? And they put his ass in the overflow room.
That's because he don't got no money. I mean, he has money, but not like Elon money.
Not the richest, the top 5 richest people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, y'all, that is an issue. That is an issue if you can pay your way into the most powerful person on the planet's office.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there is money in politics. People buy their way.
Well, that's what
lobbying.
Lobbyists
Absolutely
do. Like, that's what that whole sector of
100%. There's a whole industry that people make billion money. I don't know what the percent is, that make a lot of money buying their way into politics for whatever cause it may be.
Mm-hmm.
Like radio industry has lobbyists. Whatever industry you work in probably pays people, but not to basically cozy up sleeping right next to Trump and Melania at night.
Right. Well, I was going to say, like, yes, the radio industry has lobbyists, which, by the way, they're always like, if you want to put some into the pot of your own money.
I'm like, girl, what?
And I'm not. It's fine. It's fine if you do that too, by the way. But I know.
I'm like, girl, let them rich people up there do it.
But I'm pretty sure that those radio lobbyists were not sitting in that front row.
No, they probably weren't even there.
No, they were not there. And let's be honest, they're trying to save AM radio.
So that to me is so scary.
Right.
That they just, and now it's like starting to trickle down to where, like, with the whole shit show that happened this week of people were following Trump and JD Vance when they didn't want to on Instagram. Oh no,
is it JD Vance too? I gotta look.
Yeah, it was both. Or the office of the president and the office of vice president. And then, like, it never happened to mine, I don't think, but I blocked those Instagram accounts. But that sort of thing is happening. Or if you put into your search bar on Instagram, Democrat or Kamala Harris, it would say something like, you can't find it, or this is sensitive information. Some of the abortion clinics around the country, their stuff is starting to be blurred out. And it's housed under sensitive content or they've been shadow banned. So it's like we're living in scary times.
There's only a few people that own social media.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when they're all sitting over there in their little seats, you're like, we all use social media. That's how we communicate with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all owned by those 3 people. And what scared me most too, there's a lot of scary things. So it's just one of them.
Right.
One of the scary things was that that Elon and Vivek got a governmental
Doge.
Yeah, they got a department.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what? And then of course the joke was, why do you need 2 of them for an efficiency department? But I think he's stepping down, right, to go be like the governor of Ohio.
Yeah, he's gonna run. It's the Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah.
It is expected to be led by Elon Musk, who Trump separately said would get an office for about 20 employees.
Okay. So he has a government post now? Why? Because he donated a lot of money. What if I had a lot of money? Would I get a government post?
Yes.
Apparently.
Listen,
it's just,
that's why it's like Zuckerberg and Bezos, I believe, all donated like $1 million to Trump's inauguration fund. Where does that money go?
I don't know. I don't know where any of this money goes. Oh, and let me talk about this just really quick. Sorry, I think we're just kind of like spitballing as we go, unless you have something very pointed as your point number 3 or 4.
No, I just have the last thing we're going to wrap up with that affects everybody.
Oh, what I was going to say was, so I watched that whole Mark Zuckerberg video about like how they're taking away the fact checkers and all this stuff. And then he's like, and then I don't know if it was in that video or if it was after the fact, but he said that we need to bring back masculinity.
Oh yeah, that was his interview with Joe Rogan.
Oh, okay, that's what that was. That's why I didn't see that video of that, because I don't watch Joe Rogan or whatever. That's weird to me. Like these are all the little things that like perk your ears up and you go, that's weird. That's weird. What does that mean? We need more masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
Was there an issue? Has it gone somewhere? Because as far as I know, like there are still men and women out there doing their masculine and feminine things. And by the way, both can do both, because it's the yin and the yang. We have both in part of us. Like part of me is masculine, part of me is feminine, and they work in a balance. What does it mean we need more? Does it mean, are you saying there's too much femininity right now? Because I feel like we've had a lot of masculinity for, I don't know, maybe the last millennia. But that's me, I guess. Just me. That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Things are weird, part 75.
It's only 5 days in.
I know. Well, that's what they want us to do. You're right, though. You're right about how like it's too much information.
Flood the zone.
I have been back at the gym, as you know, and whenever I'm on the when I'm on the elliptical, they have a wall of TVs, and God bless them, they do try. There's like there's all the kinds. There's a Hallmark channel over here. There is CNN here. There is Fox over here. There is like Hallmark, like I said, and there's something else on the down there.
MSNBC.
But they have, probably. They have everything for everyone. But the problem is, like, you watch both, and every time I'm on there, I'm looking and I look at Fox News, and I don't care what it is, it causes me to be like, because it's so stupid. And then like I look at CNN and like, yes, do they have a left lean sometimes where I can be like, all right, that's a little bit biased. But for the most part, they're just telling news stories. Like they're talking about what's going on in California. They're talking about like when Hegseth was getting the nominations and stuff and all this, they were reporting on that. But like everything on Fox is so dramatic. It's like, whatever they use to say. And I know this because I'm in media and we've been trained on how to write a good tease and how to be dramatic. And everything is so dramatic on Fox News. Oh, God. Anyway, so I was just going to say, like, if you ever watch and see the difference, it just makes me roll my eyes. But like people watch it like it's the Bible, like it's religious, like.
There was a saying that back in the day, one of the reasons why on Fox News, they have their graphic turn and change around, and not just a bug would be on the bottom of your screen, is because it would be burned into people's TVs because they would have Fox News on 24/7. And so they had to change it to where it rotates and it moves and stuff like that, so it wouldn't burn into your screen. Now, this was the early 2000s, so this was a while ago.
Okay, well, there's that.
That's
something.
And then just to throw this out there, of course, Trump is, basically saying with regards to relief efforts for California, thinking about holding some of it back because of Gavin Newsom, the governor, locking horns with him. Right. And so Gavin Newsom has been trying to, as best he can, be nice, play nice. So his state can get aid for natural disasters.
You can't get aid unless you bend the knee. Is that it? That sounds a little weird to me. Things are weird, part 76. Like, it's just all of these things that are adding up, and like this whole TikTok thing. I was reading an opinion piece. Now, again, it's an opinion piece.
Right.
I was reading an opinion piece about this, about TikTok and Trump's about face, where the guy who was writing it, and I was like, this is not even my position, because I was like, I don't think the Chinese are really trying to do anything with this app. But this guy who had been working in China for a long time, he's like, you don't know what it's like over there. There's bugs everywhere. They're in. As an American living in China, they had bugs in my apartment. It was just part of my job, and I knew that I had people tailing me. He's like, that's how it is. And so he was saying that it is a threat. This guy that was writing, it was the opinion of him that TikTok is a threat. And he was upset because he's like, Trump was against it, rightly so, back in 2020. And I was for that because there is stuff that can be infiltrated. And I was like, okay, well, I don't need some proof on that. But I don't know. I don't work for the government. So maybe he's right. Anyway, he's like, the fact that all of a sudden in March 2024, I should have had this article pulled up. He's like, he met with some billionaire that donates heavily to TikTok, and then realized he could use it for his, running in the presidency and all this. And he's like, and then suddenly now he's liking it and he's for it. And the guy was like, that is questionable. I'm not saying that there is causation and correlation here, but it's just interesting that he did this 180 where he was saying, I'm for America. And now all of a sudden he's like, well, we're going to try to figure out how to save TikTok. But is that best for America, or is that best for his pocketbook or people that can do the bidding or whatever? It's all about money. I think it really is all about money. And now I'm not talking about millions. I'm talking about billions. There's just so many things. I could go on a list because there's the getting rid of the DEI. There is the, like all of the stuff. They're taking away like LGBTQ pages on the website for the government. There's just thing after thing after thing, and it is overload. And that's why people like me do start to numb out, because I'm like, I can't. You
start to stop paying attention because you're like, I can't, it's too much. But that's why Steve Bannon said, flood the zone with shit.
Yeah, just absolute nonsense. And the way that every single person, I get frustrated with Democrats sometimes too, because the way that everybody was making such a big deal about this Elon Musk Hitler salute, I don't give a fuck. Right. Because it's another distraction, and you're going to argue back and forth. Was it right that he did that? No, let's move fucking on. Like, unless you have proof that he's bringing, a Nazi regime over, like, it just figure it's part of the shit show circus. Here's the next thing. Look over on this tent, and look over in this tent, and here's this going on over here.
When you got to keep in mind that it is Elon Musk is a troll. Elon Musk is a guy who feels like he's part of the cool circle now, and so he just wants to do stuff for people to keep talking about him.
Yeah, he's an attention whore.
And there's nothing that we can do right now. He's not going to be canceled. He's not going to lose his job. Like, we just go, okay, you just add that to the knowledge base you have of like, all right, he's a douchebag. And so now he's a douchebag that does a Hitler salute. So cool. I've been done with you, and I'm officially done. So you'll never see me in a Tesla.
I'm saying done. So like, I don't want to have a back and forth about whether he did or he didn't. Like, that does nothing for anybody. Like, just stop. Focus.
And here's what I wanted to end on, which will affect us with all of the different, we just 5 years ago went through a global pandemic.
That's the other one.
That's what I wanted to end on.
Yep.
Trump administration directs federal health agencies to pause communications. After a deluge, this is coming from CNN, after a deluge of executive actions, the Trump administration has directed federal health agencies to pause external communications, such as regular scientific reports, updates to websites, and health advisories, according to sources within the agency. The initial orders were delivered Tuesday to staff at agencies inside the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, including to officials at the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and National Institutes of Health, according to the Washington Post. The direction came without warning and with little guidance as to what exactly it covered, according to sources inside the affected agencies who asked not to be named because they were not authorized to share the information.
Yeah. Did we back out of the World Health Organization too?
Yes.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
Yeah. So you better go follow them on their own social media and see what you can get.
So my question is, why? Why?
I read it was either New York Times or AP, and they were like, now, sometimes with an incoming administration, they will sort of, in the first 90 days or whatever, put a pause on everything until they can get like their staff in there and figure out the transition and blah, blah, blah. And, but they're like, but we don't know why his transition team wouldn't have already had this covered, but it is sometimes possible. So the only thing that gave me hope is like, okay, so are they just shutting all this stuff down just to get their ducks in a row and then they're going to rev it back up?
No.
Or is it just a full-on shutdown?
So for what you're talking about, yes, when it comes to things that the federal government has oversight of, like the cabinet positions, like, yes, you shut all that down so you can get your people into office. But when it comes to these agencies, these are nonpartisan things. Like Fauci worked for that agency for years and he was not partisan. He's not a Republican. He's not a Democrat. He's just, I want to help people be healthy. So like that shouldn't be for these agencies. For other ones, yes, not for these.
Not for the nonpartisan agencies.
That's fucking scary. And the question I say is just why?
Why?
So I don't want to just leave you in a tizzy, but I also don't know exactly how to tell you how to help, what to do. But I will say that, yes, you don't need to be on Instagram and taking in all of this every day because your body can only be at a heightened state for so long.
Yes, you will go through a burnout if you're not already burned out.
Right. After 5 days. So that's why I say I listen to a daily podcast every morning called What a Day. Now, it is partisan. I will say that up front. It is done by Crooked Media, and it was started by a bunch of speechwriters and policy advisors under the Obama administration. And they all said back during Trump's first term is that the right has this amazing ecosystem of right-wing pundits, like back then Rush Limbaugh, Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens. You have all these people that get their Republican message out. We don't have that on the left. And so this is why they started this. And so they have a bunch of different podcasts under the Crooked Media outlet. I'm not being paid to say this. This is just what I do on my own time. So they have a daily podcast that's usually about 20, 25 minutes called What a Day, where they break down the news of what's happening. And that'll be a good way. It's easily digestible. You can listen to it once a day and then you're done. And then if you want to go a little bit more in depth, they put out twice a week called Pod Save America, where they really go more in depth. And that's about 45 minutes to an hour long. Those are just some resources because those are people that are super plugged in and they will say, hey, here are some things that you can do that are actionable that you can do in your own world, in your own space to help with what's about to come down.
By the way, I forgot one thing that we didn't mention. Marianne Budd, the reverend or the preacher.
Oh, yes.
Who was like, please have mercy. And he's like, how dare you? We didn't even talk about that, but that's another one.
Like sometimes it's so ridiculous.
Show mercy to these people. That is a nasty tone from a nasty woman who should be fired. Like, Okay. All right. Anyway, I'm sorry. I just forgot. I want to get that in before we left.
Yeah. Well, if you made it this far, thank you for listening. Like I said, we won't do this every episode. We won't even do this every week. It's just so much. It affected my mood this morning. And I think it wasn't until we got to Can't Let It Go that I finally shook it off. So we just have to be mindful of what we're putting in our bodies because it really does have an effect. But we also can't put our head in the sand.
Find a balance. It's hard to.
Holly, what's your social media?
Radio Holly on Instagram and Threads, owned by Zuckerberg. Mm-hmm. And that's really the most social media that I use for the most part.
Mine is at Miguel Fuller. I don't know what the heck I'm going to be doing on my Instagram stories. I'm sort of right now lost. I don't know. Because I want to post stuff that tells you what's happening, but then you already see it. So you're not coming to me for that stuff. And I don't want to just, I don't know.
Usually post about it, but I did post something about trans and I posted something about woke. I probably lost about 300 people.
Yeah. I've lost since I posted being at the Kamala Harris rally back in September. I've lost about 300 to 400 followers since then. So
yeah, you have to remember that a majority of people voted for him.
Mm-hmm.
So and like you say, we have to come together with people,
right?
But I also feel like we need a space to be we're not crazy, right?
Right. We need to be able to be this. This is fucking crazy, right? This is not
I'm not losing my mind, right? This is crazy. We're smart people.
Yes.
We're college educated, smart individuals. Okay, just checking. So, But then go about your day and be friends with everyone. So,
all right, we'll see y'all on Monday with the Happier Podcast. Promise.
Miguel and Holly Uncensored.
Catch it on the iHeartRadio app or anywhere you listen to podcasts.